We have got Paul Nicholls on the phone. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us on Sports Night Live. First of all, before we talk about the Arkle, Paul, in terms of, we're a week away, how excited are you? Are all the horses well? And presumably you've got a nice big team going there.
Yeah, just so I can hardly hear you. It seems a really bad line. But yeah, the horses are all in good order and we're looking forward to next week. OK. In relation to the Arkle,
obviously you're taking on Underso. First of all, obviously Sam Twiston-Davies gets the ride. Got a lot of people on Twitter and social media sort of suggesting it wasn't a great ride behind Dan Ravenstorm. But this horse, how difficult has it been, this horse, to train this season, Paul?
And there's been a piece of cake here since he had a breathing operation. He was obviously struggling with his breathing last year, and that's why he was just finishing tamely. This year he's turned that round. Needed his first run for his confidence and the run, and has never looked back since. And I mean, he's dead straightforward now. You can ride him anywhere you like. Sam realised he made a mistake at Cheltenham that day. It's made up for it since, and he was very good at Warwick recently. Yeah,
it was a tremendous run against Warwick, and beat Distant Salt in Top Gamble. Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Paul, Matt Mitter here. I'm just, obviously tonight it was about digesting the kind of the form and what it's all about for the Arkle. I mean, I'm probably going to be unpopular on Twitter this evening, but I'm really against Underso. I mean, what do you make of him as a horse? I really do question his enthusiasm at his fences, and I do worry about him getting round.
Well, look, he has had one fall, which is obviously a negative. But he looks awesome when he does get round. But the Arkle's going to be completely different to some of those small field novice chases. A lot of the novices, including mine, have been running against this season. They're a lot more competitive. Jumping will be, they'll have to be brilliant. I mean, at the end of the day, if he jumps really, really well, gets in the rhythm, then he'll be very hard to beat. He's all about jumping.
Yeah, sure. I understand you took a string up to Kempton last Tuesday to do some work. I was very privileged to be at your yard a few weeks ago, actually, and seeing your operation, which only could be described really as a gladiator and his warriors, from what I could, make out. It was a great morning down with you. But what was the benefits from you from going to Kempton? Because obviously your facilities are really top draw down there.
I only took two up there, really. Black Fontana and a new horse called Au Petit Sang that hadn't had a run for a long while, and just to give them a gallop on decent ground. Wincanton was very good to us, so let us go there, but the ground was absolutely bottomless there, so I just want to go and work those two on some decent ground, so that was the only reason.
Just digressing a little bit, I heard an interview where you stated that your owners were testing the waters and buying some horses from Germany instead of France, because they're becoming very expensive. Do you think that the top owners in Ireland have started monopolising the markets?
It's competitive wherever you go, whether you're buying them in Ireland, Germany or France. That's just the way the market is. And at the end of the day, it's probably good for jump racing as a whole. But yeah, it's getting tougher to buy them, but you've got to keep on trying and pushing.
I know it's slightly digressing. Obviously, Cheltenham doesn't just include the Arkle. Obviously, the Gold Cup on the Friday is one of the big races. Silviano Conti is doing well at home, Paul?
Yeah, very pleased with him. He went to Wincanton about 3 weeks ago with Rocky Creek. Sam Winner and a whole heap of other horses work well. He's well on schedule. I'm very pleased with him.
And Petite Sig, obviously, it looked a nasty fall at Ascot, but obviously the horse came back safe and sound. Petite Sig still geared up to go to Cheltenham?
Yeah, he is. He was very well this morning. I was actually delighted with him the way he looked this morning. He's mad fresh. He scored over 32 obstacles last week, jumped them well. He's well on, and actually the great thing about last week is it might just be doing good just to respect things a little bit more, and it might be a positive rather than a negative in some ways.
And in terms of, I mean, I hear a lot of trainers say that as well, teaches them a lot. Obviously, as the horse matures, is it because the horse is not likely to make that mistake again? Is that your fault on that?
Well, it's just helping me realise he's got to just be a little bit more careful. To be fair to the horse, he jumped really, really well. He's got experience at Cheltenham, which is a big plus. And they learn from it. I mean, all the good horses I've had have always nearly had a tumble from Seymour Business, Corto, Denver, and it just happens. And they learn from it if they're any good.
And in terms of Cheltenham, I mean, obviously it's a pivotal of the jump season. In terms of, it's very difficult to get a winner from there. But I mean, presumably every race is very competitive, and you've got Willie Mullins and Nicky Henderson. I mean, it must be very difficult sort of planning exactly what race at this time, especially for the handicaps as well. When do you make a decision on the handicaps, Paul?
Well, just look at it and look at them, see what weight you've got, and how the horses are. Cheltenham, there are some awful lot of good races either side of Cheltenham and onto Aintree and places like that. So some horses we're going to save. If you think you can't win at Cheltenham, you're better off to go elsewhere. As you said, it's extremely competitive, but we'll do our best with the ones we've got.
And in terms of Aintree, looking forward, I mean, Rocky Creek advertised his Grand National credentials perfectly well. You must be very happy with the way the horse finished.
I was. With him and Union East, I've got two really smart national horses. It's good to get Rocky Creek back to a place where we thought he was. He's in good order, as is Union East. So, looking forward to running the pair of those.
Okay. Well, I hope you have a terrific Cheltenham, Paul. And the most important thing is that the horses come back safe and sound. You have a few winners as well this year, and everyone has a great time next week. Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye.
Lovely. To the point and precise.
Yeah, and I must say, I mentioned there, I was fortunate enough to go down a few weeks ago, actually Irvin's connection, and it was a real nice morning down there where you had, it really was like you've seen all these boxes, and of course they've all got their names there, all these great stars that you've seen, and it was like a gladiator being Paul Nicholls and in his Warriors. And
how does he go about it, Matt? I mean, obviously you were privileged to go to the yard. Is he sort of in the middle, sort of pointing at everything?
Well, he's got his worksheet there, and the horses come by him all in order, and it's the timing of everything. Like you say, right, you only can go down with so-and-so, and it takes them this long to get down to where we're going to be. It's the precise, and he knows all the horses.
And people don't see it as well, because when you have the racing calendar in front of them, I mean, we look at races in advance, but when you're a trainer, you have to look at I call them the non-event Saturdays, and there's no disrespect to the Saturday that just passed, but it wasn't top draw, was it? But you're saying, right, okay, I've got sound investment. He's got a terrific record in that race anyway. I'm going to plant that horse in that race. He wins it. Do you know what I mean? It's
that's the most thing that because the man's a genius. When you see an operation like that, and there's no anyone successful in life, and you could see that the work that goes in and the great team of staff he's got. But that's one thing that impressed me much, not just from being down there, but from being a form student, is that it's no fluke that you keep on winning these. You've got to put them in the right races that they can win, and he seems to know what that's all about.
In terms of last year, I think I might be wrong, but I think we had the one winner. And we expect more.
It was. Well, that's
someone might correct me, but
are so high, aren't they, for these trainers? And they're saying, well, let's follow Paul Nicholls, let's follow Nicky Henderson, let's follow. It's a very dangerous thing to do, and I find myself not backing many of their horses. And again, it's not because I think, well, they haven't got chances, but generally they're very overbet.
Yeah.
And when you're looking for value and you want to back,
it's like Willie Mullins.
Sure.
I mean, some of them
absolutely.
horses. I mean, if you want overrated is the wrong word. If you want over-punted horses, that's a prime example.
Absolutely. Same with jockeys, champion jockeys.
Excuse me.
Things become a little bit more fair game at likes of Cheltenham and bigger festivals because the liquidity in the market's there. So, the bookmakers will take more of a stance. But generally speaking, they are normally overbet. And that's because the bookies, of course, run scared. And
we've seen it with AP McCoy, haven't we? Since his announced his retirement. I mean, practically every horse is...
I mean, exactly. I mean, I think if you set your mind out now and you actually went on Betfair and you laid every horse that AP McCoy sat on to the end of the season, you'll imagine you win fortunes. And if you did that year on year, laid every horse that he sat on for £1, you would have made a lot of money every year. Because the reality is, on a pound level stake, he's well behind.
Yeah, it's a bit like Richard Hughes on the
absolutely,
flat.
and Richard.
And Ryan Moore.
I don't think Richard Johnson's been in profit for the last 12 years over jumps.
Okay. Well, we are slightly digressing because we've had a number of previews over the last few weeks that we've taken a look at, and this man here has been ridiculed for putting up a place for, well, not ridiculed, but sort of questioned about a place for the champion hurdle, which was Purple Bay, if I remember right. We're going to take a look at the Arkle, and I think the suggestion is that Underso is no value at all, certainly at the odds that we see him at the moment. And it's a terrific race. You've got Fabrato Valtat, Joss's Hill, and a few others as well, including one outsider that Matt has got his eye on. So we'll take a very short break, and we'll see you after this.